Kallol, welcome to the podcast. You are the first Asia Pacific guest on our podcast so far, so congratulations for that distinction.
Great to be here, Steve.
Yeah. I'm guessing that most of our listeners don't know much about New Zealand's telecommunications market or Spark New Zealand. So please start by telling us about the company's history, the scope of the business, and the competitive landscape there.
So Spark New Zealand started from Post and Telegraph in 1987. And in 1990s, it was privatized. And then in 2014, it was rebranded to Spark New Zealand. And with the rebranding, there was a digital transformation which started to change the company from more than a telco to a digital services provider.
Okay.
And that essentially has created Spark, which is the largest telecom services provider in New Zealand. It provides mobile, fixed line, voice, managed services. It also has a large digital services capability. It provides IoT, cloud computing, IT services, and now it has ventured into data centers. So it's more than a telco, but we are still proud to be the leading telco in the market. It's a small market, like it's a market of 5 million people, but it's highly competitive. There are probably 100 plus telcos in the market, but the major competitors are there are small, like if you see the broadband market, there are small ISPs who are.
Oh, I see.
There are quite a few of the small players, but if you take the large challengers to Spark, they are 1NZ, which was previously Vodafone New Zealand, and 2 Degrees are sort of the 3 main players in the telco market.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned cloud services and data centers. Do you actually operate those data centers, or is that something where you kind of market, you're the retailer to them?
No, we are building data centers.
Oh, really? Oh.
And yeah, so we have, and I guess this came up because you know how the AI revolution has created a huge demand of data center services. And
Sure.
since we are sort of provide a bouquet of services, data centers seem to be a natural extension of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned New Zealand's relatively small population, 5 million people. That's only a little bigger than my small state in the United States. Also, the population is stable. It's not growing fast. So what's the key to running a successful telecom business in a situation like that?
It's a very interesting question. Before New Zealand, like I sort of came here on a summer for a few months and never went back to any other country. I loved it so much. But I have worked in large geographies. And I think the biggest difference between New Zealand and to be successful in New Zealand is because of the small market, you need to have a whole of business approach. So you have to have a bouquet of services, like what you see in Spark, which covers a large part of the market. And second is that being in the market, you need to be really close to the customer. So the customer centricity in what you do, how they experience you is really important because they can make a choice to be with you or not. And that makes a large difference. A small change in the customer base will make a large difference to the company.
Yeah.
And third, I guess to keep that customer centricity, you need an innovation mindset, and which innovation along with transformation. So if you look at Spark's journey, so it did a digital transformation in 2014. Then it started this wireless broadband move, which is providing broadband on wireless, and became one of the leading providers of that across the world, which was a big change in how you use technology. But then it changed its operating model. So in 2018, it went completely agile. So it was the second company in the world or first telco to completely flip to agile. And then more recently, it embarked on this AI, IT transformation. So it's a constant evolution of an innovation which keeps you going in the sort of a market like this.
You mentioned the agile company becoming agile, and you also mentioned the kind of the AI revolution. And both of these things are happening at once in this company. Of course, they're happening in the world as well, or AI is anyway. So I understand that you have recently been promoted to head of transformation for the company. Now, why did the company launch the transformation initiative, and what exactly is your role there?
At Spark, we have been across the transformation landscape for last like 10 years of various kinds.
Okay.
And my background is I led out transformation in various companies. So I had a global role earlier and I went across the world to do IT come business transformation. Now, where the telcos are going worldwide is they are becoming more like a cloud AI company
Mm.
because the network and IT are going to cloud, and most of the capability seems to be AI enabled. So it seemed natural to bring the AI and IT parts together in the company to unlock the customer experience change, which will enable growth, and also the people experience change, which will enable better productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring that together, uh, there is a technology component, but there is a bigger business change and people change component attached to it because it needs the business process to change in the company and also the reskilling that needs to go along with the business process change. So this amalgamation of data, AI, IT, and business process together eh, to make that leap into future is what the mandate of the transformation program or the function is. And that's what I'm sort of fortunate to get that role to take facilitate this change inside Spark in the next few years.
Interesting. So there have been kind of waves of transformation in the past, and this is kind of the most recent iteration, forced or created by the opportunity of AI.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if you see the way the AI is evolving is there are like billions of dollars getting into the research and development of the core AI capability. And there is a chat GPT or GPT version coming every year.
Right.
But for that to be useful in the company, you need to change how the data works, how IT works, how the business process works, how the people work. And I think that will be the differentiator because the core capability will be there, but how companies are able to bring that together to realize the value will differentiate them than the rest in the market.
Yeah. No, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. You talked earlier about one of the keys for the company being to be very much customer centric, to be in touch with the customers, whether they're individuals or small businesses or enterprises. So it seems like one of the keys to success in this transformation as well is optimizing your marketing to consumers and enterprises. So your marketing spend is efficient and effective. Are you using technology to accomplish that?
Great question. Like 4 or 5 years back,
Yeah.
uh, there was a new CMO. His name is Matt Bain, who came in and he started to provocate around is advertising really useful and can we make advertising useful for people?
Yeah.
And that led to a problem statement is that we, through analytics, know that only 1 to 2% of our customers are in the market any day uh, looking for something from us, engagement, a service, or a product. Can we find that 1 to 2% rather than a large set we go to engage every day? And the advantage of 1 to 2% is that then your communication is targeted, so your cost comes down, and the customers like it because they are wanting an engagement, and essentially your campaign effectiveness goes up. But to do that, we had to do a change in the way technology works to solve that problem because we had silos of data and distributed in various applications and data sets, and to bring it together to create that view was very difficult. And that's why we started embarking on this. We will create a cloud based architecture in data and break the silos.
Yeah.
So that data can be real time or can be loaded in batch. So there are various mechanisms, but the key part was bring this data together to create a 360-degree view of the customer.
Mm.
And we had to go somewhere to create that view of the customer, and we use Snowflake as the place to bring all that data together. And once we had the data, then we could apply AI models on top to identify when customers are in the market. For example, from the data, we know your device capability, and sometimes we can see that you might having issues with your device. It's old and it cannot keep up with the rate you're consuming data.
Mm-hmm.
So then it becomes useful for us to offer you upgrade in the device or offer you other capabilities to make your device experience better. Now, that turning of the dial to find those who are in the market for a device, which fundamentally changes that equation. And that is enabled by bringing the data together, building the AI model, and then surfacing those in experiences in app on website.
Yeah.
But to do that, it was a difficult exercise because we had to go and do it in chunks because you can't do that whole together. It will take years. So we use that minimum viable data concept of do what you need for a particular use case, but to build the future. But now we are here. We are completely out of our enterprise data warehouse, which was in it is in cloud, and we are probably one of the few big telcos where most of our data is in cloud.
Interesting. So you basically migrated all of your data from those data silos on-prem up into the cloud, and you use Snowflake as basically your data management layer. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, something you said was really intriguing to me because you talked about, in a sense, with some of these new capabilities, you're able to identify not just that a customer is in the market for a change, but that they should be. They may not even be thinking of it, but you can see, yeah, they're not getting the optimal experience. Maybe they need a new handset. Maybe they need a new plan with different, pricing or different capabilities. So I that is really fascinating. Now let's drill down here on this marketing project, which I think Matt Bain was somebody who really got going. Tell us about your brain technology. What does brain stand for, and when and why did you launch it? And I understand what role Snowflake plays overall, but was there a specific capability they brought that enabled the brain project to go ahead?
Full form of brain is build robust AI for next best action. And
Yeah.
why did we coin the name? Because the squad which built it coined the name and it
Yeah.
stuck. And the idea was that, we have invested like any big company, marketing infrastructure. In fact, sometimes we think we have invested quite a bit more than what sometimes we needed. So we had Google, we have CRM capability from Salesforce, we have Adobe, we have all other set of capabilities. And what we were always wondering is how do you maximize the return on investment of these capabilities while solving that 1 to 2% in the market. And that led us to Brain, which is essentially a layer which sits on top of these, which orchestrates the working of the machine so that we can find the right message for the right customer at the right time.
Yeah.
And it essentially has 4 components. It has a decisioning engine. It has machine learning models. But the core of that is a 360-degree view. Now, the 360-degree view is not only customer view, we also build an household view, which is how do we stitch the data to find who are in the household, just not the customer, which gives much more insight because some of the products are household products like broadband.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an attribution engine so that we can answer the favorite finance question is it's all great, but is it really creating additional value or not? And show us the way that at each level, at a campaign level or at a macro level, it is adding more value. And where Snowflake plays is that it's the platform of creating that 360 view or household view and brings the data together for the AI models to work.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. So it seems like that has been a very successful project. I know you've both reduced your marketing spend significantly, increased the success rate for marketing outreach also significantly. Why do you think this approach has been so successful?
So I guess with any transformation which is successful, I think there are technology components like brain and what does it do, but there are the business and the people process change is vital to land this capability. So one was which marketing will get great 100, but I mean we have to give a lot of credit to marketing.
Yes.
So for they're able to change their ways of working to work with this technology because otherwise it would never been successful.
Yeah.
And that coupled with our um, desire to have privacy and governance as our core pillars of this capability. So invested in tools so that they can see if the AI models are working properly, they are robust, they don't have bias, so that we can have governance on the AI. But
Right.
we also then created a privacy infrastructure behind it. In fact, we had some issues to start with in the sense that there were too many requests coming to privacy teams. So the
Yeah.
privacy teams changed their operating model where they train people from data or marketing so that they can do the first level assessment with a tool so that which are so sort of create the first level assessment of privacy and the complex ones go to the privacy team. So that's process change and the people change enable this transformation to sort of give us the benefits which we can see in the last 3 years
Yeah.
along with the technology change.
Yeah. Now, as head of transformation, are you are you able to kind of dip into every function and give them guidance, help strategize, or is it more like you have an overall scheme that you're kind of responsible for deploying throughout the organization?
It's a great question. Is that the transformation has to have a enterprise gamut or ambit
Yeah.
because otherwise it can start in few places
Yeah.
but it needs to go enterprise wide and see how we uh, if you look at the journey of brain,
Yes.
uh, we started with marketing. But then we realized that this decisioning engine along on data, which brings better experience for our customers or people, are applicable elsewhere too. So we same is now with B2B. So we are using the technology in B2B to find the 360 view of customers in B2B and how we can understand their needs or predict their needs upfront and also bring more operational efficiency in the B2B. We are doing the same in the channels so that we can hyper personalize our experiences of a customer when they walk into a store or a call center with the same knowledge which we have in brain. But the same is true for our network. For example, we are using the technology to identify the tilt of the tower so as to maximize the reach for the households. And also in rostering of the capability of people in by understanding the skill mix and the demand. So if you see, that's what we call the enterprise brain. So the brain which works across the enterprise. And roughly, if you see, this leads to digital twin sort of concept. And the idea is that it will help us not only in those particular areas, but to create a simulation of things which we react currently, but we can predict in future. For example, if there is an emergency or the weather event, it impacts our network, impacts our call centers, it impacts our rostering, and if we have this capability, then we can sort of simulate what can happen and prepare for it in advance. So, and that's the idea of having a enterprise brain, and we call it the data-driven operating model, where data and decisioning are a key part and a key differentiator by bringing this together inside the organization.
Yeah.
And what transformation does is essentially it creates the platform for this to be realized all across the world.
Kallol, I understand you have taken the brain technology and you're using it across the enterprise, not just in marketing, but also in customer service, HR, finance, sales, network operations. How do you take that functionality that was designed for marketing and apply it to all these other uses in the organization?
So if you see, and this is where the evolution of AI is happening.
Yeah.
So previously there was predictive AI, which can predict. So in finance, like finance forecasting or forecasting demand um, in people. I think they were anyway. There were uses of that in finance and HR. There is also supply chain forecasting, which also is enabled by AI.
Yeah.
What we are seeing is that generative AI coming up has created additional advantage to these functions because it's like the left brain, right brain. The left brain sort of creates the predictive modeling, and the right brain then, with its search capability, brings in the search of these functions to not only these departments but also the rest of the organization,
Mm.
and then helps them to engage them in a much um, uh, easier way. For example, like when you query HR about a question, then there is a search function which can search the HR database, and then it creates a co-pilot type answer for the HR person to answer. So, um, and we see this growing where this predictive AI and the generative AI combinations will knock a lot of benefits in these support functions in the organization.
Yeah. I got it. Now, this is a massive application of technology across the enterprise. Where are you in the process of completing the transformation? Kind of, and what's the next phase?
So there's a great question: is when does transformation ends? And the way the world is moving, I think transformation is an ongoing function. It will never end because by the
Yeah.
time it finishes one thing, it will go into the other. Right now, the focus, what we call is Spark 26 strategy, which is to focus is on bringing the AI and IT capabilities together, focusing on B2B customers in a way because we have a large B2B presence. We are
Yeah.
one of the telcos with a very large B2B customer base. So we want to focus on making those customers with their journeys and their engagement better. And we as AI evolves, which is happening at such fast
Yeah.
pace, we want to you bring that AI capability inside Spark. But one thing we are very cognizant of is that we have this um, capability to bring the internal innovation to external parties, like what we did with Brain. We
Yeah.
innovated internally, and then we have created a data product, and we will continue to evolve those opportunities to create, bring innovation, and then productize it where it
Hmm.
makes sense.
So you've started with the brain marketing technology, and I understand you're selling it to customers starting in Asia Pacific. How is that working? Are you just beginning it, or are you far enough along to know how it's going to work out?
So when we created Brain, we created for Spark, right? And then um, we were we were wondering that this was a problem statement which we had. Do others have the problem statement? So
Hmm.
we went around some other telcos and also beyond telcos in terms of industries. We have a similar B2C
Yeah.
subscription based
Yeah.
model,
Yeah.
and see if there is problem statement it's true. And we surprisingly found a lot of product market fit in terms of this product and the problems they're facing. So we then put this into a cloud platform, and there's a telco in Australia who is a partner but also our customer whom we started building this capability, and now it's a SaaS platform available to any customer. And now we are now probably in we are the product is there because it was there, and we essentially created and hardened it and made it available to make it available to other customers. But we are now in the process of um, using our partnerships with Snowflake, with AWS, Kubernetes of the world to help us get to customers, especially in the Asia Pac region. I mean, we don't have worldwide is absolutely the focus, but since it is near shore, we are looking at Asia Pacific.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. So as each of these brain components for different functions and different kinds of use are matured, then you turn them into products and you sell them. It's like a giant business opportunity for you. I mean, you're becoming a kind of a cloud software company, right?
That's the vision, absolutely. I mean, there will be some cases what we build internally may not have a product market fit
I see.
worldwide, so we might not go there. But we see that, like what we are doing in B2B businesses, in terms of understanding B2B customer needs and giving them the right um, insights, probably is again a use case applicable to many other businesses across the world. So that's the plan. It's an IP bridge of what we create internally and then make it available to other customers if the problem statement is true for the other
Yeah,
geographies too.
gotcha, gotcha. So you really are developing a lot of software, and I understand that you're using Snowflake's Snowpark technology as the application development environment. Why did you choose that, and what benefits are you getting from it?
So we use Snowflake as essentially our um, partner for data technology.
Yes.
And increasingly, Snowflake is into the world of applications and machine learning and AI.
Right.
And was our sort of first big project to look at other parts of Snowflake and see how Snowflake works in the application domain or using machine learning or visualization capability. And we trialed it in one of our businesses, and the feedback was fantastic. Right? They loved it with the way because uh, one of it's anyway we are the data is in Snowflake, so it's useful to have other capabilities around it. So that's what sort of uh, was the start of what we think where Snowflake is trying to position itself. Like it's more than a data company; it's more of an AI and applications company too. And this probably helps to change the positioning in people's mind and customers' mind on how they use Snowflake.
Yeah, yeah. So you started in one aspect of your business. Are you now using Snowflake and Snowpark as the application development environment across the board, or is that something you're planning?
So that's what we are in the process of planning
Okay.
because we are planning for next financial year, and there is a huge plethora of tools in the market. So you
Yeah.
have to find the right positioning. Snowplug is absolutely one of the ones we are looking at because based on the uh, initial success of the use case which we did,
Yeah.
seems that it has the potential to
Yeah.
sort of bring automation and as well as bring better experiences for our developers too while they work on the technology.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier Agile, and were you in charge of that Agile transformation throughout the company?
So I was fortunately one of the um, first few who were in the design team of Agile. There was
I see.
I didn't lead that transformation, but I saw the transformation very closely, and I had the opportunity to design it for the areas I was looking at. At that time, I was looking at data, automation, and parts of IT.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I could see is that we did the agile change and the flip um, around that time to become completely different business that we had in a few months.
Hmm.
But that created a huge sense of customer centricity because the hierarchies changed and people who were not exposed to customer insights or customer interactions started getting closer to customers, and that changed the culture. I think that's probably the biggest thing which happened through agile, because there is a lot of like material about agile processes, about sprint reviews and quarterly business reviews.
Yeah.
But the key thing about agile is the agile mindset. I think that probably is a more long lasting differentiation rather than just the process. And that uh, had a huge impact in the organization. And what we have done thereafter in terms of the innovation in AI, data was probably ushered in by Agile, because what Agile did was it also created the sort of the foundations like DevOps and CI/CD to
Mm,
automate the work, because Agile needed so many squads to work together in a very
yeah,
cohesive way, and also the AI platforms to bring the insight to ours and our customers. So
yeah,
it's sort of the foundational change which sort of created further change in the business.
yeah, I got it. So a lot of people are probably familiar with agile software development, where this all started. But basically, what you're saying is you're applying the principles, which is like the small teams, the flexible, the short bursts, the learning as you're going, the steady, constant improving, all those kinds of agile software development principle you are applying throughout the company. Am I understanding you correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that's the biggest, like, if you company wide agile um, is what we did 4 5 years back.
yes.
And the agile was there in the software parts of the business already. Like many companies had it, but to do it company wide required a huge transformation.
So there's a tremendous amount of excitement about generative AI and its capabilities. I mean, the past year and a half have just been a whirlwind. And I know that you're using it. And I wanted to find out, well, kind of what have been the most important applications within uh, New Zealand Spark? And also, where do you see it going, both within your company and also elsewhere?
So, like many other companies, we started using generative AI, using ChatGPT, and
Yeah,
made it secure inside Spark so that everybody can use it and data doesn't go anywhere. And then there was this plethora of copilots which came in, like my Microsoft Copilot, and then there was many other copilots came in, which helped to sort of accelerate the journey into generative AI. And then we started building some of our search functions and capabilities so that so for example, in customer service, so that they can get the information faster. And we see this coming up in various parts of the business, like content generation in marketing or coding being assisted by things like GitHub Copilot. But where we see this going into future, which is not very distant as much as we can see now, is agents coming up, autonomous agents
hmm,
who essentially can do more complex tasks than just task-based AI, generative AI. And these all needs to work together, and that's probably what we are thinking of, um, bringing those capabilities together to create some kind of a orchestration, but also some control so that we know how they are working, some ability to observe how they are making decisions, so that we have some basic criteria to govern how generative AI works.
so there's all this excitement about large language models and Gen AI, but there's a lot of other AI out there. I mean, more traditional machine learning and things like that. What do you expect to be the major AI trends over the next year or so, or even further into the future?
So predicting the future is very difficult in AI world, like
Yeah,
next 5 years or some servers, or what will happen in 5 years. But
yeah,
in the next, we can already see some of the themes like multimodal, which is image, text, videos, audio, all coming together. So that's probably where some of
yeah,
the advances of AI is. Like you should see the new 4.0 demos or the new capabilities coming from various other big AI vendors.
yeah,
Second, I guess, is with that, I think the NLP on using natural language to talk to anything
yeah.
or talk voice or chat will become very prevalent, right? So, and that will disrupt how UX or CX is in this world. So everything probably will be natural language. Even coding is becoming natural language
Right.
enabled, and that those two will then lead to the next question around ethics and how the governance of AI works. Because if AI is becoming so pervasive, how we are doing it in a responsible way. So there will be probably more thinking and capability coming up on that area. But then, while there will be controls, it will create a huge demand, and the demand will be what we are seeing is data centers, electricity,
Oh,
computing
yeah.
power. So there are some information around how much power is getting consumed through the new data centers. In fact, there are instances of some cities, most of the electricians are now working on data centers because it's going at a rapid pace. So there will be a sort of crunch around power and how we use that responsibly. Because I mean, it looks like Kabul is the new coal mine of the
Yeah.
new industrial area. Like
Yeah.
for electricity, power, coal was needed in the industrial evolution. It seems for AI, you need computing power,
Yeah.
computing and power. So and this will evolve. The part of the pace of change is tremendous, and I think that there will be some supply demand and some balancing of ethics and risk, which will
Yeah.
continue as the march of AI starts.
Yeah. Yeah. There are lots of big questions. It's so powerful, and the course of the development of the technology and of society's use of it is really unpredictable too. So huge challenges, but huge opportunities as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the opportunity is like, if you see, it's a bad question to answer, but if you see the next 5 years, uh,
Yeah.
and assume we are what, GPT-4, next 5 years, GPT-9. So
Yeah.
if that's true, what will the life be? And the opportunity, I guess, is in the two sectors which um, are very fundamental for us, but haven't gone through the change as probably software or telecom or technology sectors have been, which is medicine and education. And health and education is where there will be huge opportunities. Imagine a world where we can get personalized medicine, like medicine which is based on our DNA, our way, how we are set up. The medicine is based on specific to us, or education and the courses or the learning is completely customized for us, and that's probably a huge opportunity
Yeah.
for mankind, and which probably comes with some risk attached to it. But I'm a half full guy, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's
Yeah.
probably going to be a
A
much better world.
techno-optimist. Yeah. Right. You know, it's interesting. I'm working on an article right now for Yale Medicine Magazine, which is about a new Parkinson Center that's opening up here in New Haven. And basically, they're bringing together huge data about individual patients, about the genome, RNA side of the genome, and they envision this kind of treatment of the future and not too distant, where somebody who has some signs that they may be getting Parkinson's goes to a clinic, tiny blood sample, thumbprint to release and match their medical records with this new information. And perhaps someday, in a matter of an hour before they leave the office, they'll know exactly what kind of Parkinson's they have, what kind of genetic mutations they have, and they'll be able to use simulation to predict their path and to choose exactly the right medicine for them. So these these ideas that we have about the capability of AI and big data to transform society, they're not just ideas. These things are in the works. And it's just amazing to see, the excitement with which, I'm talking to medical doctors and researchers who also bring this kind of IT and AI and big data analytics skill to it. So it is a very exciting time.
And, these were problems very difficult to solve. So I guess this is where like power comes in.
Yeah. Well, you bring together, problems like this, you have to bring together all sorts of domains, all kinds of expertise, and all kinds of capabilities. And that's always difficult. But I think the first step is people realizing that they have to integrate those things.
And I guess the point is that, like, AI was always looked at a thing. AI isn't a thing; it's everywhere,
Yeah,
and that's probably that changes the mindset what you do with AI. Like in businesses too. Like imagine the context AI can have and help you to make decisions, right?
yeah,
So, and that probably has a huge amount of potential to make the businesses make the right decision at the right time, responsibly.
yeah, yeah. So we're coming to the end of the podcast, and we typically end on a lighter and more personal note. And I understand that you have a daughter and that you think a lot about how AI will affect her life. So, how do you prepare your child for that world?
I really don't know, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is going? Well, how can I help her prepare? Like my daughter is 7 years old, so in 12 years she will be in the workforce. So what will workforce look like in 12 years? And I have some themes like whatever happens, critical thinking will always be useful. Like we humans have come here because of critical thinking. Possibly that probably will help any place, like even 10, 15 years, that will be very important. So developing those faculties in children will be very important, like problem solving, critical thinking, um, but also possibly with the growth of AI, I will see specialization becoming very important. Like you need to be really expert in something. It doesn't have to be work, but it's expertise in something because that's probably going to be a differentiation. Um, but I do wonder is that maybe we can't think about that because we are um, our way of thinking about purpose is lies than probably what uh, somebody's growing up and being a toddler or being 7 year old would be, because our purpose of life has been always linked to the work and for many of us, but
Yeah,
maybe that's not true for the generations which will come in because they will have so much productivity advantages of not only AI but robotics and other things coming up. So maybe they will have a more rounded view of the world, um, and that they will find their own meaning and place. So the only thing I'll say is that, like this is so uncertain. Our parents could have guided us some way, like oh, you should that and this. I don't know. We will be in that place. They probably have to figure some of this out themselves.
yeah, that could be. It's interesting. In the 1960s, Buckminster Fuller, who was kind of a polymath in the United States, big thinker, looked at automation, the kind of automation that was happening there from, basic factory automation and from computing. And he looked to the future and he said, you know, we're not going to have to work as hard. In fact, we may have excess labor. So we're going to have to figure out what humans can do now with all that freedom. And he had this idea, which I think some people probably thought was crazy, but I think was smart, of kind of like going back to school, or creativity isn't something that you can kind of force and make. It doesn't something that happens in a factory. I mean, in a factory setting, you can't produce creativity the way you can produce cars. But he said we should give people the time and the tools and the collaborative experiences so that they can be creative in any way that they want. And when I think about the future of AI, and I think this wave of automation through AI probably will be more like what Fuller was envisioning back, 70 years, 60 years ago, or whatever it was. Uh, but that's a hopeful thought that lifelong learning and that creativity might flourish. So
It's very interesting. Like I can talk hours on this, because I do read quite a bit, and I think we have to go back to philosophy sometimes in terms of what we are, why we are humans,
yeah,
and what makes us being humans. And this will come up. Like philosophy wasn't like the in thing, but it will come up in a few years. People will start thinking, why are we here?
yeah, yeah. Why are we here, and how are we different than machines?
Right.
That kind of thing. Well, this has been great, Kallol. It's been a wonderful conversation. Lots of good kind of nuts and bolts, useful information about transformation, about these new wonderful software tools that you're developing that are really so powerful for the company. And then I think talking about AI with you today has been really good. Often we kind of just talk about it very dryly about, oh, here's this new capability, here's that. But I feel like the questions that you and I have been discussing and the questions that we've been raising, these are the kinds of questions that society is going to have to really come to grips with. And I'm really glad to see that you're thinking so deeply about these things.